go through them bags. Any pants or socks, just chuck them straight in the bin, because I'm going to order a load online with the donations. I'm not having them wearing second-hand undercrackers.
I only came to drop this off, not to rifle through bin bags of Craig Tinker's Y-fronts.
We're all doing what we can, including you.
Do you want the floor sweeping and all? Because I could always shove a broom up.
Leanne, what have you got there?
Oh, just some size old hoodies and t-shirts.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
The talk of the street.
Talk of the street.
Hello and welcome to episode 344 of The Talk of the Street, an unofficial Coronation Street catch-up podcast that after last week's escape from a padlocked van and this week's escape from an inferno, it's really beginning to think that Shona is able to teleport. I'm Gavin.
And I'm once again begging people not to throw away their dust jackets. Especially people in the 1950s and 1930s.
Oh, if only I had $1 for every time you've demanded that. And they don't listen, Helen.
They don't.
They don't fucking listen.
They don't. They don't fucking listen. And that's why 50 years later, I find their first editions of Animal Farm in 1984 with no dust jackets.
Now this sounds very much like you're talking about an auction.
Well, it's work related, yes. What was that? Yes, folks, even though I got a giant needle stuck into my liver yesterday, I was back at work today.
Aye. Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, what was that even supposed to mean?
I heard the word giant and I thought there's got to be a double entendre in there somewhere.
Giant needle?
Yeah.
Needles tend to be thin and not girthy.
They are pricks, though. Oh, there it is.
There you go.
There it is.
You got
That's the
there.
joke of the episode.
You got there.
It's downhill from here, folks.
You got there in the end.
So how are you after your autopsy?
So yeah, I'm, still a little sore, and I'm being very, very careful because according to the doctors, I'm not allowed to lift anything more than 5 pounds for the next 3 days, which meant taking things out of my purse. And made work difficult today, but I was at a house going through their books as well as some other things. They had an impressive vinyl collection as well as a impressive book collection, so found some fun stuff there as well. But I said to everybody there, okay, I can pick these things up, but I can't bend over. And if anything is more than 5 pounds, I can't lift it, which is terrible because there was a marble and bronze mantle clock there that I'd already told my coworker that I was going to take for the dual platform auction. And it's like 60 pounds, as you can imagine. So I probably wouldn't have been able to lift it by myself anyway.
No.
So, yeah. So I took things easy. Unfortunately, the road that this house is on, because you may have heard here in Michigan, our governor is fixing the damn roads.
Oh, damn you, Gretch.
So like every road onto this road is like dug up and under construction. So I had to go all the way around to find enough paved road to even get to this house, because I'm like, there's no way I'm driving over bumpy
No.
with my side still poked.
Now, the more observant of our listeners will have heard me refer to your procedure yesterday as an autopsy.
Yes.
Which is maybe the second best joke you're going to get on the episode. And that is in tribute to my Uncle Sammy.
Yes.
Who announced one evening that he was going to get an autopsy the next day.
Uh-huh.
Don't you mean biopsy? Yes, you do. Because an autopsy...
Yeah, you don't know you're going to have an autopsy the next day.
Requires
or if
you to be
dead. You're probably Derek from...
Pecora, yeah. Derek Pecora. So I anticipate that story being told more than once over the next 3 or 4 days.
Yes, as you jet back off to the United Kingdom,
Suddenly our climbs.
even though planes are falling out of the sky and we're
Picked the best time to fly.
falling, and the country is falling into an oligarchy. You're gonna leave us for the weekend, hopefully, just the weekend.
A long weekend to Scotland,
Yes,
as you do.
for Uncle Sammy's funeral. Rest in peace, Uncle Sammy.
Yes,
He had a good long life.
he did. He absolutely did.
Yes, and yes, I got a biopsy yesterday, not an autopsy.
Right.
Yes,
Just to clarify.
yes. One of the vinyl records that I got is a Cheech and Chong record.
Oh, for
I
goodness
can't
sake.
remember the name of it, but it has like this sheet of like bamboo paper inside. And typically when people bought this record back in the day, they would use that paper to smoke. But this copy still has the bamboo paper, so it's worth like $400.
Oh, well.
Isn't that amazing? So
Yeah.
somebody didn't smoke them when they got them.
Oh, is that taking the second best joke? I think that might be taking the second best joke. Shall we preamble, my dear?
Yes, please.
Give us some of that reefer. Corrie News.
A new scheduling pattern means 30 minutes less of Corrie per week. ITV has announced Corrie and Emmerdale will go down to 5 30-minute episodes per week, as opposed to 6 episodes per week, which confuses me because on BritBox there are only 3 episodes per week and they're 44 minutes long.
Each episode is comprised of 2 22-minute episodes. It's a strange way of counting things.
Right, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. How do you feel about this? Are the pitchforks coming out?
I think people are largely positive about it. People have been asking for this for some time. I said on the blog a few weeks ago that I expected that the show would go to 7 episodes before it ever went to 5, and this
You were wrong.
This kind of shows you what I know, because Coronation Street is a bit of an advertising cash cow for ITV, and reducing the number of episodes reduces the advertising revenue.
Right.
One would imagine.
Yes.
And I feel bad because no doubt some people will end up losing their jobs
Yeah,
because
we'll
of
get
this.
to that.
Okay.
That's coming.
And that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But from a viewer point of view and watching the show, I remember when we were in the midst of COVID and watching it for the 30 minutes that it was on, and it was just better. It felt like it takes up obviously less of your day. It's not so much of an investment. It felt like the episodes were a bit sharper because only one writer is involved in it. I think it's a good thing. I think most people
Okay, Martha Stewart.
I think most people think it's a good thing and have been calling for it. But we will see how much of a difference it makes. And this isn't coming into effect until 2026.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we've got this year to get through first.
Right. Yeah. My concern, I think, is we, as we talked about last week when there were only 2 episodes or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
So weird. How we were kind
Helen
of
is rolling her eyes every time she talks about numbers of episodes.
talking about how it doesn't really give enough time to really sink into these storylines enough. So I'm concerned that maybe, and you're right, during lockdown they were sharper and we did appreciate it. I'm just concerned that maybe you can't step into the same river twice.
You will hardly notice a difference, I would imagine.
Well,
given
I
how
won't.
you watch it. You'll be watching 5 episodes as opposed to 6.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's a less of a reduction.
so
16%.
3 episodes, but one will be shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
Yeah.
And this does mean that the Christmas episodes and the New Year episodes and the big event episodes can be an hour. And that makes it a bit more special.
Ah.
Because it used to be it was only special episodes that were an hour long. And we've kind of got away from that. So Christmas doesn't feel that special anymore. It does mean, though, that the show starts at 8:30 now on a weeknight.
That feels kind of late.
And my gran would be having kittens at
Yeah.
the thought of Corrie being on at 8:30.
Yeah. Maybe they can be a little bit racier then.
At 8:30, my gran would be getting her warm milk and getting ready for bed.
That's when you get ready for bed in your warm milk. You are your gran.
What a way to find out. Live. And here we are recording this on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah.
When it's
It's
6:30.
nice. It's nice of the show to allow us to do that
To
this
accommodate
week. Yeah.
me flying across the Atlantic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Due to the rescheduling, apparently 75 of the 600 staff members of both shows, so the combined 600 staff members of both shows, may be made redundant, including writers, crew members, and possibly even actors. Apparently there was a closed-door meeting this morning, and there were some tears shed, apparently.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's never a nice thing to
No.
have
Especially-
announced.
Right. Especially if you take a job like this, and I imagine people in entertainment take jobs like Corrie because they're steady. And you expect them to last a long time. And you're not wondering, when your next gig is going to be, sort of thing. So to me, to then be made redundant in this way, it's probably a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, and I think there's a view that people who work in the entertainment industry are all earning fortunes, and
Yeah, that's not true.
I bet you that's not true.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that with the WGA and the Actors Guild went on strike here in America last year. People were like, what are they complaining about? They're all Richie Rich. And it's like, no, they're not all Richie Rich. Fish guy or kebab guy is not making the same amount of money as Daniel Brocklebank. They're not making the same amount of money.
Yeah, or Jack P. Shepherd.
Right.
Most of the actors, I would think, are earning probably quite a bit less than that.
Yeah. And
It's just a job at the end of the day, right?
yeah. And people on Corrie aren't making as much money as, say, actors in big movies and stuff. They make that sort of joke on the Golden Globes every year about how, TV actors make less than movie actors. Although I don't know if that's necessarily true for a lot of shows now, since movie stars are now acting in TV shows, which is weird.
Anyway, I think we're drifting away.
Yes. And finally, our Sam's life will get slightly less busy as Jude Reardon's other gig, his other show, Brassic, will be coming to an end after season 7. And apparently this was a planned ending. This is not the show getting canceled or axed. It's it coming to its natural conclusion. So that's good because, a kid that age, you'd want to have some time off.
Right.
So I'm glad that he's getting some time off. I always keep meaning to watch Brassic, and I just never have yet.
I've never seen it either.
It's on the list.
It is on the list.
It's on the list.
I think British shows are generally quite good at realising when to finish,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than being cancelled.
Right. Yes. I kind of wish Good Omens had ended with the first season at the end of the book as opposed to trying to go on further. But
No, we can't.
Never mind.
We can't talk about that, can we? Let's
No.
let's shuffle onwards.
yes, and that's Corrie News.
That's Corrie News. Well, that takes us seamlessly as ever into our feedback section that I like to call Everyone's a Critic. Stephen writes, congratulations to Stelly. I'm trying to think, what did she do last week that required... she was doing her...
Oh, no. It's Winterfest. Being on the Winterfest court.
That's right.
That's right.
Nothing to do with...
No. Yeah. The trombone thing happened after we recorded the podcast.
That's right.
Yes.
During the D&D segments of Harmontown, Kamal Nanjiani used to play a character named Krista Berg and would sing Lady in Red as a recurring bit, so he can sing. Now,
Excellent.
Krista Berg is a real person. Mm-hmm. A real person whom I hate.
No, not one of those.
One of those, unfortunately. In the days following the death of the Queen of Hearts, Diana, Princess of Wales,
Uh-huh.
I remember a bit, because you couldn't avoid it.
Right.
The TV, that's all there was. There was
Yes.
4 channels of that.
Yes.
And I remember
Even over here.
Krista Berg getting interviewed I think it was on the BBC, and he said how he'd written a song,
Oh no.
and so he sang the song,
Uh-huh.
and it was something about another star in heaven or something like that. It was quite cheesy and mawkish, I felt.
So it wasn't Elton John rewriting Candle in the Wind.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I think Chris de Burgh was coming from. Now, that's just an opinion. But, I just took against him after that. Not that.
Not that you were a fan of Princess Diana.
Not that it affected me one way or the other.
No.
Then Gary wrote in this week. Remember Gary from last week?
Yes.
Gary, is that a yes so long as I don't have any follow-up questions? Gary was the person who wrote in, and then there was nothing in the email.
Oh, yes.
So Gary got back in touch to say,
Okay, good.
I could have sworn I wrote something last week. It was probably about being a long-time listener, but first-time emailer. And that's it.
Wait. So that's it? That's it?
I feel like we're piecemealing this correspondence week by week.
Do you have no opinions to give us, Gary? Do you have any thoughts?
Who knows?
We'll hopefully get them next week.
Yeah. It's a tune in next week to find out exactly what Gary's point was.
Yes.
God bless you.
Yes.
Then Noel writes in, I'm hoping to be the first to say that nobody's blowing Addie's trumpet, but not like that. On a different note, I went online to find a copy of the Scottish Book of the Dead, thinking about how cool it would be to send it to you to get you to sign it for me, only to discover that it can't be had for less than $350.
Yeah.
Ah well, if I were a rich man. As always, the two you bring me joy. Later, Gators. Thank you very much, Noel.
Now, send us your address. We'll send you one. Do we have any more?
I've trunk loaded them.
Did you sign one for Noel? Because we like Noel.
I have one signed for him. So, in fact, if anybody wants a copy of the book, just let me know. I'm definitely taking a copy of the book on the plane with me.
Right, yeah.
And I'm definitely going to sit and read it with the picture of me facing towards the passenger sitting next to me. And I hope that they realise that guy's reading his own book. What an asshole. Then Amy writes, Hi Bernie and Dev, I have a few orders of business, but first, Caroline and I want to extend our condolences and we hope the trip back to Scotland is a safe one. Thank you very much. Helen, I have tried to figure out what happened to the Jewish mother. It seems from Google reviews that it closed 4-ish years ago. Mm-hmm. There's now a place there called Elevation 27, which is a live music venue.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Apparently you can still get the barbecue Reuben there.
But not the borscht. I want the borscht.
Also, you were 100% correct as someone who wore out the film of the VHS of Cinderella 2. The mouse is indeed called Gus Gus.
Yes.
Which is short for Angus Angus.
No, I think you were right. It was Gustave because they were French mice.
Anyway, back to Corrie. I just wanted to share that Caroline and I were chatting a few weeks ago about Emily Bishop and we're wondering if she is on Wendy's list. Wendy's list of the things that show's forgotten. Also, if you look up Emily on the wiki, you will find that she was previously Emily
Swain.
Emily Swain. She was married to Arnold Swain in 1980, who turned out to be a bigamist. Coincidence? Only time will tell.
Yeah.
It's an unusual last name, so
yeah,
I kind of half expect them to link it.
Weird that they would reuse a last name like that. Because remember, we talked about it. Because somebody on Blue Sky mentioned like the bigamist Swain, and I was like, oh, is this guy related to our Swain? And you said, no, I don't think so.
Well, time will tell.
We had this conversation.
For sure.
Yes.
Then Graham writes, been listening to your podcast for almost a year and now never miss it. I save it for my Monday morning commute into Glasgow to sugar that pill. I've just watched the Arson Whodunit mashup episode and thought I'd write in for a change rather than just staring at the other cars around me on the M8 and think I should write in. I think this is what Gary... I think this is the point that Gary was at.
Yeah, hopefully you stopped your car before you wrote in, though.
Yeah. I'm so glad Jack made an appearance finally this week. I was just about to Voggle the National Missing Persons Helpline. He's obviously been trapped in his room with his prosthetic leg jamming the door shut for the last few months, missing his dad ball troubles and his stepmom's ghostly visions. Maybe it's him dressed up as Seb with jam smeared all over his face. Wouldn't that be a plot twist?
It would.
With regards to the Inferno moment, you know what they say about the elephants going in 2x2, but I've not heard the Platts went in 2x2 one before. What the hell was Max doing going in after Shona, and who the hell glued that back door shut in the millisecond available? Also, what the actual fuck was Sarah's birthday party? Yeah, I kind of thought that as
Yeah,
well.
no kidding.
How many kids are at my birthday parties? As little as possible. Maybe she was trying to capitalise on Hope's followers. Having said all that, those ridiculous flame effects must have saved ITV a ton. Maybe Max did them with his video editing skills. It was, however, pure soap drama, which
Yeah.
I am there for. Welcome home to Scotland when you get here, Gav. Hope you get all the Tunnocks and Bars merch you can stomach, pal. Thank you very much indeed.
Yes, thank you.
And then finally, we got...
Dear to my heart.
Oh my goodness, how good was this?
Oh, it had me in tears.
Our friend Sharon, British Not Racist, sent us, I'm going to call a care package of
Yes.
delightful Cadbury's treats,
Yes.
wrapped up in a package that I'm sure kept our post office well amused with newspaper clippings from
Coronation Street.
which was
Yes.
hilarious.
And it arrived yesterday after we got back from my biopsy, when I was really emotional and high on drugs.
You were emotional, bless your
I
heart.
was.
And in it, there's a card that says, "This is Bob. Bob has no arms. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Not Bob." Sharon writes, "Thought I'd send you some handwritten correspondence. Why haven't we noticed that before?
It's for you to do.
Hope this finds you both well, and to let you know I still love you both, and your podcast is my very favourite and look forward to a new episode every week. I also enjoy On the Sofa, which is hosted by
Craig.
David, Nick and Craig, and I think you would like
Wait.
it also."
No, his name's not Craig. Coulson.
It's not called David or Nick either.
Oh, yes.
My earliest TV memory is Corrie. I used to go to my next door neighbours and watch it with her and their spaniel. The spaniel howled at the theme tune. I was very young, maybe 6, 7 or 8, and I'm now 58 and still love it. Well, thank you so much for all of that, Sharon. We
Absolutely.
see how much it costs just to mail stuff across the Atlantic.
Right, yeah.
And
You
it's-
won a pen, and they didn't send it to you because a pen was going to be too expensive to send to you. And here's our Sharon sending us all this chocolate. This was lovely.
It was lovely.
It was lovely and delicious.
I will be getting my fill, no doubt, of, as Graham mentions, Tunnocks and Bars and also square sausage and all the Cadburys I can fit in my luggage coming back. But it was absolutely delightful to receive that this week. Thank
Yes.
you very much indeed. It's been a crappy 2025 so far, but things like
Yes.
that absolutely make it a
Absolutely
bit
delightful.
better. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you to
Thank you, Sharon, so
Sharon,
much.
thank you to Graham, to Amy, to Noel, Gary and Stephen for
But especially Sharon.
we appreciate it hugely. Feedback is
And
always
chocolate.
welcome, as is chocolate. Send us your thoughts and I will probably read them out. Get us at the talk of the street at gmail.com, or our DMs are open at Corrie Podcast. So we love it when people write actual letters to us. Send us your proper mail to the Talk of the Street, PO Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827, which reminds me that I need to renew the PO Box for the next 6 months. Please note that we reserve the right to edit feedback, but only in the interests of brevity.
And to our Canadian friends, we will also accept ketchup chips.
We'll podcast for ketchup chips.
Yes.
Yes. All right, well, we're drinking our own coffees this week, so I'm going to just jump straight into...
It's fine. We got chocolate.
Yeah. Going to jump straight into this week's episodes. Shall we dive in, my dear?
Yes, please.
This was a strange episode, or a strange week to
It
write
was.
notes for, so
Yeah.
I'm just breaking it into Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay. All right. No, that works.
This won't be perfect, but
It's fine.
hey. So, the story is burning down the house. Burning down the house.
It was either that or we didn't start the fire.
It was.
It was always burning since the world's been turning. Like every time Abby said it.
I didn't start the fire.
It was always burning since the world's been turning.
So Monday, outside number 8, David is on the phone to Andy asking, Andy's a guy.
Right. The
Andy's
guy
a guy from prison.
Yes.
who-
Who was also friends with Paul.
Who's a great guy to have on your trivia team if any questions about How I Met Your Mother come up.
Yes.
He's asking Andy to drop a pin when he's,
Yeah.
Kev's, Abby is still under the impression that Debbie was the one what grassed her up to the social, but after a set two in the middle of the street, where Debbie denies it, she turns her back on her and Debbie gives Kev a call, warning him to sort out that fucking missus of his.
Yeah, because she's basically threatening bodily harm to Debbie.
Yeah, you watch your back.
Yeah.
So Sam catches up with Abby later to ask if Jack can come to Sarah's party because all the children are going to Sarah's party.
Yeah, I was really confused. I was really confused by this. Why are all the children going to Sarah's party?
And he offers a place for
Because
Alf.
plot.
And he offers a place for Alfie to go as well.
Yes.
After all he went through yesterday. And from this, Abby becomes sure that it was Toya what grassed her up instead. Meanwhile, it's Sarah's birthday and she's celebrating with a do at the bistro, but as David is chatting to Todd, he sees Ant from Ant and Dec and gives chase. But Ant uses his long, long legs to easily escape. As David's talking to Nick about
Because David has very short legs.
As David's talking to Nick, who's very good at hearing things.
Yes.
We see
And
that
also has long legs.
we see that Ant from Ant and Dec hasn't run very far.
No.
And he hears about the bash at the bistro. Jelly and ice cream. Ant from Ant and Dec's favourite.
Yes.
As the preparations are nearing completion.
And also a ventriloquist, apparently, because Sarah got an entertainer for her own birthday?
I'm thinking, well, that'll be a stripper then, surely, will it?
Not with
No.
children.
A stripping ventriloquist?
What is going on here? How old is Sarah?
41,
2? No.
42.
So 4 plus. She's 5.
Toya tells Sarah and Nick that the entertainer Sarah has booked for a grown-ups party has posted about the event for the Platt family at the bistro, thus telling the world. So
Yeah,
Sarah...
who does that? Who does that? That's like...
Private information? Yes,
Yeah.
private information.
I would understand, have an exciting do at the bistro, but mentioning the family's name, that's a no-no.
So Sarah rushes off to cancel, thinking that if the entertainer posts about the cancellation, that'll call off Harvey and his goons.
Will it?
Meanwhile, Hope and the young team turn up. Apparently Hope's followers are expecting a live stream from
For the ventriloquist.
the party, but they fuck off to Tyrone's when they learn that the entertainer has cancelled. This is all so weird. This is also very weird. Hope going on about her followers is really winding me up.
Seriously. It's like she's the new Daisy. And it's stupid.
And all the other kids following her about like she's the bee's knees and
Right.
stuff.
She's the coolest thing ever. What? What is going on here?
Sarah tells them to hurry up and get over to Tyrone's because she's worried about them walking the streets. Why is she even having this part if she's so worried?
Right. Yeah. Why are we having a public party in a place where other people are clearly still walking in and out?
Maybe
Wait.
just skip it for a year, Sarah.
Right. Maybe you don't need to have a birthday party this year. David didn't have a birthday party, and he had to share his birthday with Jesus.
So Sarah gets on the phone to David and calls him a prick for not being there. He's at the house grabbing some stuff.
I don't think she even gave him a birthday present. And here she is calling him a prick for not showing up at her birthday party.
Yeah, she's calling it really stressful, and it's his fault that it's stressful because of all the people that want to kill them.
Right.
And
Maybe
him
don't-
being there would make it less stressful, I think is her point.
Right. But wouldn't
Which
that
doesn't
make
make any
it
sense.
more stressful?
What would make it less stressful is not to
Not
have
having
the
a
fucking
party.
party. Yeah.
You're an adult woman.
Anyway, David's at the
Anyway.
house grabbing some stuff and he says that he's busy sorting out some old dear's fringe. In the office, Harry's watching Hope's live stream, which is actually from number 8, where she's doing a seance. This is a great time to be doing seances with all the ghosts that are in the show. Toya rushes over to get them, avoiding Leanne, who physically throws a vodka bottle at her. Toya barges in to find the place littered with candles, and she throws all the kids out.
Right, yeah. Because, once again, this is like publicly putting the location of Sam and Lily.
Lily's there as well.
Yes, those are the Platt children who are there. So, you're putting their location, making it public where they're at doing this thing.
Right.
And also nobody's supposed to be in that house because it's dangerous.
Right. Meanwhile, Jack is watching a live stream from his house, and Abby hears from him about what happened at number 8, about Toya throwing the kids out. And Jack, there's an extended bit where Jack doesn't know how to spell Toya. And so Abby rushes over to number 8 to shout at Toya some more. And as Abby and Toya argue...
For no reason. There is no... She's already shouted at her so much. I guess because she grassed her up to social services.
Abby goes to light the candles again for all the children that Toya supposedly cares about, but when a bottle of red falls and smashes on the floor, it triggers a panic attack, and Abby once again starts seeing the ghosts of Mason and Seb. And when Toya touches Abby's arm, Abby lashes out, sort of, and pushes, sort of, Toya over.
Sort of.
And Toya obviously bangs her head and is knocked out.
Dead. Well, not dead, but still. This is like Stu's daughter killing that woman with her school project. It's like, what is going on? Is Abby suddenly the Incredible Hulk that she can knock someone out just by sort of pushing them?
It looked like she didn't even touch her. It was so
weird.
strange. But Toya goes down like a ton of bricks.
Right, yes.
Bumps her head, knocked unconscious.
Bleeding
And knocked unconscious.
Right.
Which is a sign of severe head trauma.
Yes. This is head wound of the week.
As head wound of the week.
Head wound of the week.
But we don't really appreciate fully how head wound of the week it is until later when we see Toya in the hospital.
Yes, with a bandage on her head wound of the week.
So Abby panics and runs, sneaking out of number 8. David meets Andy.
Doesn't even call an ambulance.
No.
You can call an ambulance and then take off.
I mean, aside from the fact that I find all this really dull now, I was kind of sympathetic to what they're trying to do with Abby and the story that they're trying to tell, with her being, still traumatized and mentally ill, I guess. But the fact that they have her
again
running away and choosing not to do the right thing,
right,
kind of makes her very difficult to sympathise with.
Yeah, and then stuff that happens later on with Kev makes it even worse.
Wait a minute, Kev makes it worse?
What?
Say it ain't so. So David meets Andy outside a pub in town, and it's all green for go, whatever that is. Back at the party, it's descended into typical Platt get-together nonsense as Sarah and Shona
Are shouting
argue
at each other
about what an unreliable tosspot David is. So to calm the situation, Nick sends Shona off to pick up Sarah's cake and take a shit in it.
Yes.
At home, Abby's cleaning the blood
And
off.
it's an ugly cake, too.
Well, Sarah's about to go and get the cake herself.
Oh,
and she
yes.
thinks, Princess Sarah can't go and get her own cake.
No.
Where's the jelly and fucking ice cream?
How old are you? That you ordered this special cake for yourself?
She did.
Did she order the cake for herself?
Who else is going to
Who
order
else
it?
is going to order the...
Well,
what is going on?
At home, Abby's cleaning the blood off her jumper when she knocks a glass into the sink and then it breaks and she panics and she hears Kev and Debbie come in, and so she runs out, and then Kev panics when he sees the broken glass in the sink. Abby!
Abby!
Debbie doesn't think Abby will risk making this worse, but Kev is worried that she's off to score. And then we see someone throw a genie through the letterbox of number 8. What did you call... See, what I call a genie is when you have a box of matches, strike one of the matches, and then you light all the other matches that are in the box. And it goes...
Yeah.
Did you have a name for that?
No.
I called it a genie.
Also, I don't think that it was a rag wrapped around like a brick or something.
No, it was two long matches that they dropped through the letterbox.
No, because it was soaked in an accelerant.
There may have been something else that was thrown through, but it was 2 long matches that were dropped through the letterbox.
Abby dropped a long match. But I didn't see any matches in that thing because it was like a block wrapped in... It was like a block wrapped in like a white rag that was burning.
I promise you, 2 long matches were put through the letterbox, because then that's when we see Leanne later on. We think, aha, we put 2 and 2 together.
Well, we're all seeing things this week.
And number 4, Tim is reflecting on his entertainer role because at the party, he and Todd replace the ventriloquist very briefly.
Yes. But before that, it was Todd and somebody else. Who was it? It was Todd and
Harry.
The new Harry, who I'm still not used to.
No, it's not right.
No. Although I did like him in Better Man. He was very good as a little monkey.
Tim was actually quite good as a ventriloquist. His lips didn't move.
They didn't have to because Todd can speak.
No, but Todd wasn't doing the speaking. Todd was just going,
Do that again.
you watched this, right?
Do that again. You're like a big giant fish.
And that's what Todd was doing. It's not like he was playing the castanets or anything. So, I called back to last week. Tim was actually quite good, but he was taking it really badly because his dad was an entertainer.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah, and it's like, Tim, darling, you're overthinking this.
Yeah. Sally smells burning and eventually notices that number 8's on fire.
It's on fire!
She raises alarm with the Platts while Tim calls the fire brigade just after Nick notices that Toya is missing. Jack announces that it can't have been Hope, just in case anyone's wondering. Let's just put this out here right now. It wasn't Hope. Okay,
No.
everybody?
No.
Wink. Outside, the fire has taken hold in the downstairs of number 8. While everyone stands and watches it burn and parents call their kids, Shona and Nick decide to do something about it, and they burst into the house through the back door. The camera work as it zooms round about, I quite enjoyed in places.
Yes.
I
Was
mean,
a
it kind
little
of looked
chaotic.
like one shot.
Yeah.
Some bits worked better than others, but generally I quite liked it. So Nick finds Toya and very slowly drags her out, while Shona goes upstairs looking for Lily.
Yeah. Infuriatingly slow. Infuriatingly slow. He's like standing over her and like shouting at people and then very slowly kind of like nudging her and moving her and then picking her up.
It's like he was standing over a heavy crate and thinking, "Ooh, how am I going to tackle this?"
Yes, that was exactly my position earlier today about that mantle clock.
Yeah. So Max comes in and he goes after Shona while CGI flames seem to burn nothing but picture frames. And Nick, again, takes about an hour to carry Toya out onto the street.
Yes.
Kit tends to Toya, notices her head wound, while Leanne, holding another bottle of vodka. Remember, she's already thrown one.
Right, yes, but this is the one that she was cradling while she was sleeping on the bench.
And she looks suspiciously at this. David finally arrives, shocked to learn that Shona's inside, and the flames are too much for him to get in the front door. Shona and Max creep through the CGI flames, but somehow the back door is closed, even though Nick didn't close it.
No.
And now it won't open. The screen goes smoky, and somehow the next we see, Shona's on the other side of the closed door, and some debris falls and prevents her from
Right,
getting
now,
back in.
see, the way I interpreted that was she kicked the door out.
But the door opens
then it-
in.
And then it slammed back, and then the debris fell in between the door and where Max was standing.
The door opens into the house, though, so she can't kick it out.
That's weird. Why would it open in?
Every door in this house opens in.
Not the door to the outside.
As we saw, opens in the way. The back door is a open in the way door, so she couldn't have kicked it open. But anyway, it was closed. She couldn't get out. It was closed, and then she
Right,
was
I
outside.
think the wood had expanded with the heat of the
But who
door.
closed it?
The wind.
Yeah. It was just strange that it was almost like they'd missed something out, or they couldn't explain how somebody could get trapped in. So they went down this way. It was just a very odd way to tell this part of the story.
A lot of people complained.
Oh, a huge number of people complained about it.
Yes.
As Ant from Ant and Dec just wanders across the scene unnoticed, and Shona tells David that Max is still in there, number 8 explodes, and Max is blown to smithereens. Abby's round the corner watching this, looking pretty guilty as the fire brigade arrive. Our door opens in.
Not the front door. Front door opens out.
No. No, it doesn't.
Doesn't it?
No.
We never opened that door, so. Or the side
the
door.
glass door opens out, but the front door opens in, and the door there opens in as well.
Does it?
Yes, they all open in.
I'm so glad you interrupted yourself to tell me this.
I was like, wait a minute.
It's on fire!
Thank you. David tries to get in the house, saying if Max dies, he'll never forgive himself, which makes Shona sus as fuck. Nick sends a drunk and suspicious-looking Leanne home. Todd notices that something has set the Undertaker's burglar alarm off. Presumably the explosion, because explosions set off burglar alarms.
Well, yes. They can.
The fire brigade find Max unconscious on the kitchen floor right at the door and bring him out. Toya and Max are called ambulances.
You're an ambulance, Toya. And Max, you are also an ambulance.
And they rush off to hospital. Back at Sarah's, Shona is in a world of her own. Lily realises that she's the reason Shona and Max ran into the fire, and she apologises. Shona quietly seethes at the mention of David's name, then heads off to the hospital. In the pub, Jenny has set up a donation station for cash and clothes for the poor Platts. In the pub, Kev and Debbie still don't know where Abby is, and are worried that she maybe has something to do with all this. Debbie reckoning Abby might have attacked Toya in the way she looked like she was going to attack her.
Yes.
Good point. So Leanne has sobered up and arrives at the hospital. Nick accuses her of attacking Toya and thinking that she's here with a guilty conscience. Meanwhile, Toya is in surgery for another bleed in the brain. Has she had a bleed in the brain before? Bleed in the brain has definitely been used quite a bit recently. Carla had a bleed in the brain.
Right, yes. Which caused her sepsis. I think maybe Toya had a bleed on the brain when she got hit over the head with that pistol that they were going to murder her with. Her and Spider were going to get murdered by their kidnappers.
Oh, did they?
And I think they hit her over the head. I think. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows, Broom? Who even knows what we're watching anymore? What is this? Chicago Fire?
I don't know what that is.
It's a real show, apparently.
He leaves her to it, and as Leanne sighs and stuffs her hands in her pockets, she realises that she's got a box of matches. And much like that other bottle of vodka, she has no memory of getting them. Meanwhile, the hospital have given Max antibiotics and Prozac, and when that didn't work, they put him in a medically induced coma. Shona confronts David with her accusations, and he says that he was meeting someone dodgy to get him out of the debt, but he swears that they weren't going to burn down the house. And then Racist Kelly...
Burning down the house.
And then Racist Kelly shows up because this episode wasn't depressing enough.
No.
And mutters about Frankie going to the hospital. Hoo-ha.
And also, how, Max was just saying how they were going to get married and run away together and all these things. And they're not going to happen now because Max is in a coma.
Then Kit shows up to see how Max is, and the cops already have proof that an accelerant was used. David blames Ant from Ant and Dec and saw him hanging around like a bad smell. David has murder on his mind, so suggests that Kit finds Ant from Ant and Dec pronto. Back at Sarah's, Audrey finally shows up. Very keen to describe events as an accident. What exactly were you doing, Audrey, on the evening in question?
I know, because you were supposed to be at that party and you never showed up. Free booze and you didn't show up.
And jelly and ice cream. And a ventriloquist.
And free booze.
Sarah has only one culprit in mind and blames David for all this. Audrey is fucking furious and knows that David isn't capable of this. Stealing from her? Yes. Arson? No. So while all this has gone on, at the start of the day, Kit's buying flowers from Dev's for his mum's grave, and Tracy's giving him the hard sell when Steve turns up, worse for wear, and has lost his phone. He covers by telling Tracy that he's under the weather. Tracy gets on the phone to Amy and leaves a message to get all the goss from the previous night.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in Nina's rolls...
Because that's a normal thing for a mother to do.
Right. Did you get your whole hen? Meanwhile,
Oh.
in Nina's rolls, Leanne gives Toya a mouthful of abuse and then tries to get Steve roped into some afternoon cocktails, but Steve is too fragile.
Cocktails, get it?
Yeah. But it seems Leanne has been hitting the booze early and is probably still drunk. Back at number 1, Tracy has found Steve's phone and he's shocked to discover his millions of missed calls and messages. Amy lost her car keys and was stranded in Winslow. Winslow, Arizona? Yes.
She was standing on the corner.
It was Wimslow. But it does sound a little bit like Winslow. Amy finally gets home to
Was
find...
she in a flatbed Ford?
That's the implication.
Yes.
Amy finally gets home to find Steve and Tracy frantically trying to call her. She plays down what happened, says that she walked home from Wimslow and goes for a lie down. Tracy is angry at Steve, but he reminds her that he was poorly. He goes to Des for headache tablets and finds Leanne buying a pint of vodka, more pissed and gagging to get Steve as a drinking partner. He tells her no and then has to insist no. Later, Ardy is chatting to Amy and he doesn't think her version of events adds up. Why didn't she look for her keys? Where were her mates? Why did she walk home from Wimslow? Amy explains how devastating it was to hear that Aaron is living his best life while she feels like she's trapped in the
And
past.
he's on a T-shirt.
Yeah, he's got his own merch. That was funny.
Yes.
In a kind of horrible way.
Yes.
Adi reminds her of the speeches that she gave at the time, how her experiences were the same as thousands of others. So if she's been tough on herself, she's been tough on all those other women. He calls her a survivor and a very strong woman.
So strong.
So very, very strong.
So very strong.
So that was all the stuff that kind of happened on
Monday.
and a little bit trickled into Tuesday.
Yes.
What did you think of the fire and stuff? Was it exciting for you?
On Monday, I watched the movie Traitor, which had a lot of explosions in it. One of the stars of this movie is Guy Pearce, which is why I was watching it. Because I'm watching Guy Pearce movies this year, thanks to The Brutalist and The Hurt Locker.
Sure. Aren't we all?
Yes. And in my Letterboxd review, I complained how fake the explosions looked in this movie about Islamic terrorism and stuff. And I think the same could be said for this episode of Coronation Street. Remember how bad the baboons looked in Gladiator 2? Remember how bad those looked?
Yeah, they weren't great baboons.
No, they weren't great baboons. This was also not a great fire. It was a little fakey on the outside. On the inside, it looked convincing.
I felt the heat on the inside.
Yeah. But especially when that explosion happened, I was like, come on, guys. Come on.
If it's going to blow up,
Have it blow up.
it's going to really blow up, isn't it?
Right, yes.
Because presumably that's a gas or something that it's...
Then again, Corey's not known for getting explosions all that realistic. Let's not forget that Alia was in a truck that exploded and walked home.
Oh, the explosion looked fairly convincing. The fact that she walked home, less so.
The fact that then you see her like 20 feet from the truck and she just gets up and walks home. Yeah. So I did feel like the running in and out of the house was a little Titanic-y, and they didn't need all three people to run into that house to look for one person. You don't need three people to look and see if Lily is in the house. And the fact that Nick stops and shouts at Shona to go look upstairs for Lily before he gets Toya, who is visibly injured, out of the house. That took so long. It was kind of ridiculous. I don't know. I think perhaps because I knew it was coming, it made it less exciting.
That's always the case, I think.
Yeah.
And Corrie spoils itself. It does...
So much.
It does
Too
rob.
much.
If you didn't know that was going to happen, I think you would have maybe thought, oh my God, they're really doing this to number 8?
Right, yeah. Because we just had this whole emotional thing about number 8 when Gail left.
Right.
But then again, we also get to watch that soaked rag block thing that you think are 2 matches go into the house. So even if we weren't expecting it, it's kind of spoiled by the episode itself. I kind of feel like we don't need to see that. We don't need to see something go through. We just like, oh my God, the house is on fire. That's better, isn't it?
Well, no, I think that they want to show us the matches so that we think it's Leanne. When Leanne discovers her matches, they had an awful lot of Leanne not remembering that she's done something.
Right.
She was like, did I buy this vodka? Yes, you did.
Yes, you did.
Poor Jane Danson says she's on the hiding to nothing here because she's been directed to be
Drunk.
so blotto that she's passing out, but also compos mentis enough to be coherent when she says things that are important for us to notice.
Yeah.
And I don't think she can do both,
No.
no matter what she does.
No. And
But what really got me, though, from the whole thing was the fact that not everybody is out on the street watching this,
Right, yeah,
and I've seen a lot of people agree with this,
yeah.
that in years gone by when there's
Every
been
single
fires,
character.
everybody's standing out in the street.
There should be 40 people out on that street,
Absolutely.
and there wasn't.
Because you see Yasmin just wander through the back of it.
Right.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, this is your next door that's on fire.
Yeah,
The fact that it's mostly just plats that are out on
Yeah.
the street
and then,
really didn't give it the sense of drama or urgency that
then
I think.
Sally and Tim,
Yeah.
and that's about it. Daisy and Jenny should be out because they're like basically right across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody should be out watching this because that's what people do.
In the olden days, it was Vera walking out her house going, oh, hiya, Ken. And then, what? And then realising what's going on because
Yeah.
everyone's nosy.
Yes.
So everyone should be outside
Being
having
nosy.
a nose.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
No.
And it suffered because of that.
Yeah. I am also so over. I mean, we've talked about this already, about this storyline, but the whole Abby being used in this way over and over and over again, her PTSD just constantly getting dredged up,
Yeah.
and the hallucinations are just, they're getting a little ridiculous. You made a very amusing meme this week where it's not Seb with jam on his face that she sees in her hallucinations. It's classic villains from Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
And that was very entertaining, and I enjoyed it. They should maybe do that.
See, seeing some of those classic villains, it does take you back.
It does.
Oh my God.
Some of my favorites.
But the point that I'm trying to make with that,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to make a point with it,
Yes.
is that it's all kind of cartoon-ish.
Yeah.
The way
Yeah.
that they've got her doing this and the way they've got her
Right.
bubbling away
Right.
all the time. And it's...
And just like all of a sudden things go hazy and she blinks her eyes really fast. And then there's Seb with jam on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's repeating everything that Toya is saying. So I don't know. I just leave that poor woman alone, please. Because I don't know necessarily if there's really any coming back from this now. Because before, all of her forays into doing things like this have been sympathetic because they've been towards evil people. You know, let's not forget her lighting Ray Weinstein's car on fire, which was a joy to watch. Knocking Toya out and not even calling an ambulance before running away. Toya, you know, who, yes, okay, did kill her husband, but is typically a very sympathetic character.
Mm-hmm. But they're trying to rehabilitate her already in this week's episodes.
Yeah, which is
They want us to
annoying
forget.
as hell.
They want us to forget that she did this
Right.
horrible thing by leaving a unconscious woman to whatever fate.
Right.
In the same way that they want us to forget that Daniel was a drunk driver.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So they drop these really monumental, horrible character-defining things on these people, and then it's useful for that moment. But after that, well, we'll just skip over the fact that Daniel's a drink driver, and we'll just skip over the fact that Abby abandoned Toya in a house that caught fire. And even though you could say, well, Abby wasn't herself,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't really.
It doesn't matter.
You're still responsible for that.
If you kill someone and you do it accidentally, you still go to jail. If you kill someone and you're mentally incompetent, you still go to, you know, a psychiatric hospital,
Right.
jail type thing. This is, you still did a bad thing, even if you didn't mean to. If you do a bad thing, it's a bad thing, and you need to be held accountable for it. And it frustrates me because we see this in television shows, and Corrie is not the only television show in the history of the world who does this. This is not just a Coronation Street thing. But then we see all of this fucking shit going on in real life where people are like, well, we can't be held accountable because we didn't know what we were doing or it was an accident and stuff. And then the whole world burns down. You know? It's like, show some accountability because we don't get accountability in real life. Can we please at least get it in our fantasy?
On Tuesday, at number 1, Amy is comparing her problems with those of Max and David, and Addie points out the folly of such a position. He's quite wise for his years. He cheers Amy
I like
up,
it. I like him when Addie gets wise.
and she asks him to stay. Stay? Well, maybe. And it looks like he's spent the night, but we learn that he left and came back, and it looks like he's about to declare his love for our Amy when Tracy comes in and ruins everything.
What else is new?
So the next morning, number 8 is fucked.
Yes, it is.
So fucked that that's getting torn down. That's how fucked it is.
Is it?
The roof's gone in places.
All the windows are burnt out.
That's
There's
an
an explosion.
absolute mess.
Yeah.
David looks on sadly as Leanne walks by. She asks how Max is, but David doesn't tell her anything. And he walks by the undertaker's and sees that the lock has been jimmied. David creeps in while Aunt from Ant and Dec hides behind the sofa.
In a
Armed-
black hoodie
Armed, dangerous, and stupid.
with a screwdriver.
Rather than call the cops, David starts recording audio on his phone as Aunt from Ant and Dec springs up and demands safe passage to the street. He denies starting the fire and says
He didn't start the fire.
that he's only an undertaker's to pay his respects to his brother.
Who he killed.
He says that killing Mason was an accident and he has
Right.
nothing left to lose.
Again. It's not my fault. It was an accident that I murdered my brother.
Meanwhile, Sarah's at Jenny's jumble and tells Todd that the Undertaker's door was wide open. So back at the Undertaker's, Aunt from Ant and Dec sees that he's been recorded and goes for David. Todd, Sarah, and a random non-tinker copper show up and wrestle Aunt from Ant and Dec to the ground and to the door, where he loudly declares that he didn't start the fire. It was David what done it.
And it was always burning since the world's been turning.
Swain, whose presence you would be forgiven for thinking would provide some poetic conclusion to this, is nowhere to be seen.
No, she's not.
We can't have Swain arrest Aunt from Ant and Dec.
No. I was getting kind of concerned that we hadn't had any Swarla in like over a week.
Well, we get
What's
a little
going
bit.
on there?
We got a little bit this week.
Yeah.
David's back at the
Eventually.
hospital and Shona tears a strip off him, but they eventually hug. Then Shona gets a mystery call and goes away to take it, while racist Kelly sits at Max's bedside and cries and mutters some shite about the two of them getting hitched.
Yeah.
David is sure that Max is going to be okay. Then back from her call, it turns out that Aunt from Ant and Dec has a solid alibi and couldn't have started the fire.
How
Although we
does
don't-
he have a solid alibi when he's been on the run for
Oh.
killing his brother?
Yeah, and how solid is this alibi considering that he walked by the house while it was on fire?
Right, yes. And also, why are people giving him alibis when he is already on the run from the police?
All signs are pointing to Abby starting the fire. So Sarah apologises to David for jumping the gun. She borrows David's phone to call a cab home, but finds that he's been voggling how to set up a house fire and claim it on the insurance. Because David is that stupid.
Right, and because he'd be voggling on his phone as opposed to his computer?
You can do that.
I know, but still, for something like that, why would you do it on something that somebody else might see? And why would you be stupid enough to hand your phone without deleting your search history?
Well, why is
First.
Sarah going straight into his browser history anyway?
Right, and why does she need to borrow his phone? Doesn't she have a phone of her own?
Her phone was dead. She did say that.
Did she?
But
Convenient.
his phone, when he unlocks it, then has to be open on the Voggle page for
Right.
how do I commit insurance fraud,
Right.
which is beyond stupid, really.
Yeah. And David's not that stupid.
Oh, he's that stupid this week.
Well,
David claims that was all he did and he didn't go through with it because insurance companies are notoriously slow at paying out. So it was,
right. Yeah, so it was stupid.
it was their SLAs that meant that he didn't burn the house down himself. He
Right.
refuses to say where he was last night and leaves to see a comatose Max, where he apologises for being so stupid. As all this is going on, Leanne takes some old clothes to Jenny's collection and explains to Tracy that Nick doesn't want her at the hospital. Well, who gives a fuck what Nick wants, says Tracy, and she has a point. Steve comes in and pretty much says the same thing. Leanne reveals that she was at Oliver's grave when the fire happened and tries to get Steve to give her an alibi. But she realises how that sounds and quickly retracts just as Kit comes in looking to ask her a few questions. He asks her if she knows anyone who might have a vendetta against Toya. Leanne quickly denies hurting her or starting a fire because she was at Oliver's grave, and surprisingly, Steve gives her that alibi after all. At the hospital, Toya comes round after more brain surgery and tells Nick everything, how Abby was the one what pushed her in number 8. Tracy's chatting to Jenny, who tells her about the Nick, Leanne and Steve were in the other night, so she tears a strip off the pair of them in the pub for abandoning Amy in another storyline. I tried to be your pal, she says to Leanne, but you're a total hoorbag. Leanne stomps out. Then in comes Tim, who admits to taking Leanne to Oliver's grave. But he took her in the morning. I'm trying to think of when she got to the grave then.
Yeah.
Because she was lurking about the street drinking copious amounts of vodka.
All day.
Pretty much from the morning.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, she took a cab, so it's not like she was drunk driving.
Yeah, but we saw her on the street like several points through the day.
Yeah.
Because she was drinking. She'd already had a drink when she saw Steve and Nina's rolls. And she was drunk by the time she threw a bottle at Toya.
Right.
And then she was asleep on a bench.
Hugging another bottle of vodka.
So at what point did she go to the grave?
I don't know.
At Kev's, there's still no sign of Abby. Debbie doesn't think this looks good, and now Kev is starting to think something more is up, but he can't go to the cops with this. He then gets a call from Wendy Flaming Crozier. She was looking after Alfie last night, and Abby has picked him up from her this morning, but was looking very much on edge.
Yes. So, the show has remembered that Wendy exists.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Wendy gets the occasional mention when they can't explain
Find another
where Alfie is.
babysitter, right, yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't get to see her.
Meanwhile, Abby's parked in that car we never knew she had, and she's a blubbering mess as she tries to convince Alfie she's in a fit state to protect him. And Alfie's like, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure that you're taking care of me right now?
Yeah.
Then Roy knocks at her window, and it's not Ghost Roy.
It's real Roy.
It's actual Roy.
Yes.
And he takes her home. She's super paranoid, thinking people are going to take Alfie away from her. And Kev notices blood in her jeans and thinks she should speak with Dr. Gadas. So he gives Gadas a call and she agrees to come round. But when the door goes, you can tell by the knock it isn't a Dr. Gadas knock.
No.
It's a Kit knock.
Yeah.
And he's here to take Abby to the cop shop for assaulting Toya and on suspicion of setting fire to number 8.
Right, yes. It's not Kit on a social call.
No.
It is. It is
Kit's on the job, so to
Kit
speak.
on the job.
So to speak. So, is it bad that I'm kind of disappointed that Max is still alive at this point? I was sure that he was going to die.
He might still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like whatever they do with Max now to explain why he's leaving the show will feel anticlimactic if he doesn't die. You know, it's like when, who else didn't die and I was disappointed they didn't die?
You were disappointed that Paul didn't die, as was I.
Right, and then he did die and it was anticlimactic when he did finally die.
He should have died during
He
the
should have-
special episode.
Right, yes.
And I will die on that hill,
Yes,
whether,
like Paul did
whether in a special episode
2
or
weeks
not.
later.
Yeah. So on Wednesday, Abby's in the cop shop being quizzed by Kit. She admits to pushing Toya, but it's all foggy, and she just wants to go home. Kit wants to know what they were arguing about, so Abby admits that Toya reported her to the social services. Kit thinks gives her a motive, and thinks Abby torched the house and left Toya to cover her tracks. Back home, Kev is furious that Abby has even been questioned for this. Debbie thinks there's a fine line between devotion and delusion. And then Kev admits that there's a jerry can missing from the garage.
Uh-huh.
It's not really a jerry can, though.
Why?
Well, that's not what jerry cans look like.
Like gas cans?
It just looks like a regular little gas can, doesn't it? Are those called jerry cans? I thought jerry cans were those big army ones.
Yeah, it was like a big, like barrel-like one with like a little spout on top.
Yeah, like the red plastic ones that we've got.
No, it's bigger and metal, I thought. But it's hard to tell in the video, which we haven't even gotten to yet.
This is the smoking gun, and Kev realises that if she did this, there's no going back for Abby, but he refuses to turn his back on her. He says that if she goes to prison, he'll wait for her. And I'm like, Kev, man, I don't know how to put this to you, but if she's going to jail, then I don't think you're waiting around for anybody, if you know what I mean.
No.
He checks the CCTV, and whoever took the can, it wasn't Abby, because she had to hunt to find out where it was, and Abby knows where everything is.
The person had to hunt for where it is. That did not look like a woman's profile.
It didn't. And whoever it was had an interesting, was it a dragon decal on the back of their hoodie?
It was a black hoodie with like an octopus or Cthulhu on the back.
I think it was a dragon.
Dragons,
Who has an octopus on their hoodie?
a member of Hydra.
Oh, of course. Silly me.
And also, like I said, it could have been Cthulhu.
Yeah. We have lots of H.P. Lovecraft fans on the street.
You never know.
Although Ant from Ant and Deck does seem to be modelling himself on him.
Right. And also is seen constantly in a black hoodie.
It looked to me like it was Ant from Ant and Deck.
Yeah. Yeah. We've never seen the back of his hoodie.
Oddly.
But yeah, that's my suspicion as well. And I bet he is an H.P. Lovecraft fan. He just has that look about him. And if he was in the MCU, I bet he'd be a member of Hydra.
I don't know what that's. So whoever it is, they've got the decal on their back. In the interview, Abby has another hallucination of Seb as Kit lays all the circumstantial evidence out on the table. As Abby moans and whines, Swain bursts in to put an end to all this. Kev shows up at the cop shop to tell Kit what he's learned. It's Swain who's interviewing Abby now, but if she thinks that would stop Abby snobbing and snotting, she's got another thing coming. Swain recognises what's going on though, and asks about the triggers. Abby admits to seeing Seb, but there's an interruption, and the copper has a wee whisper in Swain's ear about Kev's clue. So Abby is released under investigation and tells Kev about her mental health problems and how she sees Seb. Kev thinks that she needs proper help because of the triggers. And it was weird hearing Kev say triggers. Great call from Kev about the proper help though. He goes to the hospital to speak to Toya on his own and tells her that Abby has admitted to what she's done and explains about the hallucinations that she's been having. He wants Toya's help. He gets home and tells Abby and Debbie where he's been and tells them that Toya has agreed to drop her complaint, and this means that Abby won't get prosecuted, or in other words, gets away with it.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is the reset. This is, oh, well, we'll just forget that Abby is now a character who leaves another person
To die.
in a fire. Although the house wasn't on fire.
The
when
house
she left
wasn't
it,
on
yes.
fire when she left it. But then when the house is on fire, she notices it and continues to run. Yeah. This whole, well, she didn't mean to knock her out. That's all well and good if she then calls an ambulance and gets her help.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what happened.
I think she has moments of clarity where she knows what's going on. She knows that Seb isn't really there.
Yeah, because she said to Roy the other week, I see him and I know he's not there, but he looks so real.
And she had this conversation with Nina.
Right.
Also.
Yeah. Although I think she took what Nina was saying differently, and I think Nina was taking what she was saying
Very much so, yeah.
differently.
Because Nina was, I do see him, I see him in my dreams and stuff.
But the weird thing is that she acknowledges that the Seb stuff is a hallucination and it's not real. But she doesn't seem to recognize that her irrational fear that Toya is going to take her child away from her is an irrational fear. Mm-hmm. She doesn't seem to want to acknowledge that part of this whole paranoia. And that's frustrating to me. That she does not recognize it.
Then she's staying well clear.
Right, yeah. Instead of constantly going after Abby.
Mm-hmm.
Or Toya.
Yep.
Yeah.
The familial home or the setting that's painted at the end of there she is having a wee cuppa with Debbie, who she's basically threatened
Right, yes.
the previous day.
Right.
Everything's forgotten.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of true for families, but
Right, yes.
you think that Debbie would still be a little bit cautious
Right,
about
yes.
it. Because this is still an ongoing situation as far as she's concerned.
Right,
'Cause
yes.
it- 'cause
She's
it
still
is.
not getting treatment. And she
No.
could still fly off the handle at any second.
Yeah.
And again, she's not recognizing that her paranoia about Alfie is part of this whole thing. And that's what made her yell at Debbie and threaten Debbie's life, was her paranoia about Alfie.
Right. And then when she's trying to explain it to Kev, and Kev's being rational about it, and she's like, "You're just not listening to me." And it's like, no, he is listening to you, love.
Finally.
But what you're saying isn't making any sense. That's
Right.
what the problem is.
Yeah.
It isn't Kev, for a change.
Right. For once. It will become Kev the next day. There's plenty of blame to lay on Kev's feet,
Oh, 100%.
but not yet.
So while this is going on, we've got Carla receiving notification that the tests are going to be conducted tomorrow
At the prison.
at the prison.
Yeah.
So against, I think, Swain's best advice, Carla goes into the prison to tell Rob what's happening. And Rob
Even though he probably would have gotten notification as well, wouldn't he?
one would have thought,
Yeah.
well, this is just a test. This isn't anything
Right, but they would
invasive.
they would let him know that there was going to be testing. Well, it'd be slightly invasive because they have to take blood, yes?
Oh.
Or something.
So Rob is somewhat disappointed to learn that this is going to be conducted in the prison.
Yes. And,
And
not
Carla's
at
like, well,
hospital.
where else do you think it was going to be done, because you're a prisoner?
Yeah.
And Rob's like, oh, well, I just thought that maybe we would get a little day off or a little day
Right.
trip.
Right,
And
to
he
the
tries
hospital.
to play it down. But
Yeah.
Carla realises this, and she talks to Swain about it later.
Yeah.
Saying that there's always something about Rob that she just doesn't trust.
Uh-huh.
And it sounded like he was
And not just
up
the
to
murdering
something.
part.
Yeah, there's other things as well. The murdering is just gilding the lily a little bit. Swain goes off and she runs a background check on
Right.
Rob, and it comes
Talks to a
back
few pals who work in the prison.
that he's a model prisoner. Mm-hmm. But then we see Rob
We already know he's not.
in prison, where he keeps his arse phone in a kettle, and he phones somebody to say that they're going to need a plan B.
Right.
So that's quite interesting, isn't it, Helen?
Yes.
So he is up to using this
Something.
as a
As a way to escape.
jailbreak type
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. Well, can't win them all.
They seem very confident that this is going to be a match, and if it's not, well, again, nobody's mentioning Kate again, so
Right. Selfish. Selfish
Kate, so very selfish.
It's funny. Benny's a little hyper fixated on donating a piece of his liver to me if I need it. He keeps asking me questions about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I mentioned it jokingly, and now he's like hyper fixated on it. Because you can donate a part of your liver,
Yes.
and it grows back.
Yeah, that's why the liver is such a groovy thing.
It's such a groovy thing. It's so cool, but also apparently, as we learned this week, very vascular, which is supposed to mean something to us.
That's like 3 people told us how vascular the liver was.
Right,
And I was
without-
like, oh,
okay.
oh, really? I've heard that.
Yeah.
I have heard that. Yeah.
What does that mean? It's got a lot of blood cells to it and stuff.
Very
I guess.
bloody.
Yeah. It grows
That's all I've
back
got.
though. That's the cool thing. No other organ does that
Well, now we know 2 things about the liver.
except for your hair and skin.
It grows back, and it's very vascular.
It is very vascular.
So, meanwhile, Amy has forgiven Steve, again, rather easily, about the whole thing about abandoning her out in Winslow.
Yes.
Steve runs into Leanne and tells her that he knows that she wasn't at Oliver's grave, but Leanne can't remember where she was during the fire because it's a total blank. She explains seeing Toya going into number 8, but after that she passed out and woke up in the community garden with a box of matches, and Steve now thinks this doesn't look very good and suggests that she does something about it. So Leanne goes to the cop shop to confess, but she has a change of mind when she sees that Nick and Kev are already there and they're kind of fighting over implicating one person or the other.
Right.
Steve isn't impressed when he learns about this and how Leanne just wandered off. He says that he doesn't know her anymore. Back home, Steve admits to Tracy that he gave Leanne an alibi, and Tracy is shocked and appalled and reckons that Leanne is the pyro. So in the Rovers, Tracy publicly accuses Leanne of starting the fire and getting Steve to provide an alibi, and Leanne rushes out, wishing Tracy had kept her mouth shut, and Tracy says the same about Leanne's legs. Back home, Tracy in this scene was wonderful old Tracy,
Yes,
and it was good to see.
absolutely.
Back home, Steve tells Amy that he missed her call because he was getting his hole off of Leanne, and he also lied about giving her an alibi. And Amy sounds like this was far too much information and she would rather not know
Right.
any
yes,
of this.
Yes. Yes. Which is why she also didn't call her mum back to give her the goss.
Why is everybody so sharing in this family?
Ugh.
So meanwhile, next morning at Sarah's, Shona has lots of news for David. Max has improved overnight, and a suspect has been brought in for questioning, who Shona is sure is Abby, because we're
Right, yes.
at that point, that's how it was looking.
Correct.
David still thinks it was Ant from Ant and Dec. At the salon, Audrey has opened, and she and Sarah discuss letting Gail know what happened, but Audrey doesn't think Gail needs to know, given that she had a heart attack a few months ago. So that explains that. That
Right,
explains
yes.
why no one's telling Gail, so Gail won't be coming back for this.
Yeah, nobody's telling Gail that her grandson is near death and in a coma.
Then Andy comes in looking for David. Tell him I dropped by, he says. And I saw something online, somebody saying, the fact that a bald man walked into a hair salon and nobody said anything
Yes,
is unforgivable.
yes. That was hilarious, though. Because at first I didn't realize who he was. And I was like, what's this bald man doing in the hair salon? Is he looking for a piece?
Sarah wants to know what the deal is with this Andy character, and Todd, who is Sarah's BFF this week, knows that he knew Paul and was a jailbird and as shady as hell. He's the sort of person that when you shake his hand, you count your fingers afterwards. Sarah gets on the phone, and later, she and Nick pounce on David. How could you wee rat, says Nick. They've learned that Andy did time for insurance fraud. Dum dum dum.
Dum dum dum.
David denies all of this, but refuses to say where he was last night. Nick says, I've given you a chance, and he leaves. David goes to speak to Audrey, who apparently has been brought up to speed on all this, and has decided to trust him, but she admits to being wrong plenty of times about him in the past.
Correct.
So not exactly a ringing endorsement.
No.
And at the hospital, Shona's been brought up to speed by Roy, and challenges David about it. She needs to know what the fuck has been going on. So he tells her neither he nor Andy had anything to do with the fire. He wasn't there because he was busy driving a getaway car. Shona reminds him that he's a hairdresser.
That doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to drive a car.
David says this was the only thing he could think of to get the money. They robbed an electrical warehouse, so it was a victimless crime. In the
Sure.
meantime, Nick turns up to the cop shop to drop David right in it.
Right. Why? Why would you do this to your brother when his son is in a coma? Why are you all of a sudden the moral authority in your family, Nick, when you just cheated on your fiance with her sister?
Well, I think
Why
it's-
are you now the moral authority in your household?
I think
sir?
it's Toya's condition that's given him this
Yeah.
moral compass reawakening.
Right. Even though David had nothing to do with knocking her out. Everybody is pretty well aware that that was Abby at this point.
So Kit and his podgy wee partner show up at the hospital for a word with David, interrupting David and Shona loudly arguing about what he was doing the previous night. He's taken in, and David insists that it's Ant from Ant and Dec they need to be going after. He admits that he did some research and torching the house, but he wouldn't try to kill his own family, and besides he was in Denton at the time with Andy. And when Kit asks what he was doing, David no comments.
Correct.
Go speak to Andy, he says. At the hospital, Nick and Sarah tell Shona what's going on, so Shona tells them about David being a getaway driver for a robbery, which is
Hilarious.
just an amusing sentence for
And
her to say.
somebody
Like,
else also says
Sarah
he's
says,
a hairdresser.
Yeah, he's a hairdresser. But
Hairdressers can drive.
but it couldn't have been David who started the fire. Nick doesn't think this changes much. David is still toxic. Back in the interview room, Kit says Andy says that he didn't see David on the day of the fire, so Kit now arrests David. At the hospital, Shona has heard about this.
Did he not think to check with the people who just saw Andy at the hair salon asking for David? Which proves that he has seen David recently? Because he's like, I haven't seen him in weeks.
No, he said that he didn't see him on the day of the fire,
Yeah.
which is still true even if he was in the salon.
It's weird, though. It's weird.
No, for sure.
Also, it's weird that David thinks that Andy is going to say, yes,
I know.
we were in this place together, robbing some electronics.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, David was my getaway driver.
Yeah.
I'll vouch to that.
Yeah.
At the hospital,
Aye, aye, aye.
Shona has heard about the suspicions on Leanne now, but she hasn't heard that David has been arrested. Later, Max wakes up to find Shona by his bed, and she tells him that David's in the cells. But then we see Kit bringing in a handcuffed Leanne. Everyone did it. Everyone is arrested. Fuck y'all. And that's how we end this week's episodes.
Which is great.
Oh. Who do you think did it?
I think you did it.
I think Max did it.
You think Max did it?
I think this is a perfect alibi for Max. He's completely not under suspicion because he was in a coma.
Right. That's interesting.
But remember, Max made a face when David brought up the insurance job last week.
Yes. And he didn't Google it to see that, or Voggle it, to see that insurance payout takes forever.
And he is a master of jumping in with both feet,
Yeah.
as we saw with the whole Joel thing.
But wasn't he in the bistro the whole time? Is there ever a time that Max isn't at Sarah's party?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he's there the whole time, isn't he?
Well, he only really needs 2 seconds to nip out and set the fire and run back again.
Yeah. Does he have a Cthulhu hoodie, though? That's the main question here.
Oh, indeed. It wouldn't surprise me if he was. I'm not going to...
Oh, and maybe that's how he goes out of the show, is that he goes to prison for arson.
Yeah. I'm not going to bet anything on it, but it's just suspicious that we don't hear what he found out or what he knew because he was
Right.
unconscious and then in a coma for
Yeah.
all of this week. But he was kind of late to bursting into the house. And it's conceivable that if he thinks that Lily's in the house,
Right,
then...
that he would burst into the house because he would feel guilty.
Absolutely. So yeah, the whole decal on the back of the hoodie thing is maybe dismissing this, or the stealing of the petrol is unrelated.
Right. It could be a red herring. But an accelerant was used. Mm-hmm. That would be the most interesting way for this to go, is if Max did it.
I don't think Leanne did it.
I know, I don't think Leanne did it either. I think she's far too drunk to do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Abby did it because we saw her terrified trying to run away and like begging Leanne for money to run away, which was weird. In the community garden.
So David didn't do it because he was busy being a getaway driver.
Right.
Because he's baby driver now.
Yes.
He's got his little earbuds in as he's driving his Mark II Ford Fiesta around about the streets of Manchester or Denton, wherever that is.
Wherever that is. Yeah, and I also don't think that David did it because of the way that he's so insistent that Aunt did it.
Yeah, and that's the misdirection, is that we've all thought that this is what David's setting up. He's setting up with Andy for Andy to firebomb the house or whatever.
Right, yeah.
We think that's what he's setting up.
Yeah.
And the aha gotcha moment is, no, it wasn't that. It was a robbery on a electrical warehouse or whatever. So it's not David. It's not Leanne. It's not Abby. It's not Hope because, remember, Jack pointed that out early doors. Mm-hmm. So who's left? They're either going to do it the way that they like to do it, where it's disposable characters who do these horrible things and then when they get thrown away into jail, we don't miss them. Or it's somebody who's going out of the show pretty soon.
Right, yeah. Or like, it's not Aunt, but it's another one of Harvey's thugs who did
Which
it.
would be even worse if it's somebody that we don't know.
Yeah. I still don't understand why Aunt keeps hanging around like a bad smell.
He should be in the south of France by now.
Seriously.
Bothering Gail and Jesse.
Right? Yeah. And I guess the show is trying to explain that with him going into the breaking into the funeral home, that it's guilt that's keeping him lurking around. But I don't feel like that character would feel all that guilty. And also he says, I didn't mean to do it. It was an accident, so I didn't do it, even though I did it.
Did he do it?
We're not bringing that. I think the whole Diddy joke thing is done.
I saw a chance to reprise it, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there a way to bring Drake into this? That's the thing to do.
I can't see one.
No.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I think the most interesting way for this to go is that Max did it. Yeah. I like that idea.
Max did it to help out David.
Right.
We know that Max has no common sense.
No. And that
We know that
he's
he's impetuous.
impulsive. Yeah. Which is explained, which could very well be explained by his ADHD, because when you have ADHD, you're very impulsive and do things without thinking. That's
Which,
part of the attention deficit part.
And let's give them credit then, because that character very much is of that trait.
Right, yes. They don't explain it that way, which maybe they should.
No, it feels more good luck than good judgment.
Right.
But
Yeah.
But
'Cause
still, let's not
forget
knock
the
a gift
whole
horse in the mouth.
the whole nearly getting murdered and then, forcing your girlfriend to murder someone was all impulse, 100%.
Did he force her?
Well, he forced her by nearly dying. If she hadn't killed Joel would have killed Max. So, by the very act of being there, he kind of forced her hand into killing Joel.
And it was his idea to go and track
Correct.
Joel down.
And then he relented and let her come with him. Because remember, at first he's like, no, you can't come.
Yeah.
And then I
Because you
guess
hogged the radio.
he caved. So, what's going to happen to number 8, do you think?
I think they're going to rebuild it. Because, here's what I think should happen. All those houses would be knocked down.
Yeah.
Because there's bound to be some damage in,
Right, yeah.
in Yasmin's house. And at the
And,
very
and
least,
Sally's house.
their houses are going to
'Cause
be
isn't it-
stinking of smoke.
Because isn't it Platt, Sally, then Yasmin?
No, Yasmin's in the middle.
Huh.
As if Sally would be in a mid-terrace.
No, you're right.
She's a detached.
Right.
A semi-detached.
Right.
All the way.
Ay. Yeah. Yeah, they should just knock them all down.
But they're not going to do that.
No. Because then they wouldn't get back up again.
It'll be the scaffolding outside the Rovers
All over again.
But at least this time there's a reason for it.
Correct.
Did you see in the behind the scenes what they did?
No.
They recreated the inside number 8
And burnt it down.
on the old Underworld lot,
Oh, that
And
is interesting.
and then burned it down there. And I was like, why did you go to that bother? Why not just burn because I guess
Right, yeah. Because
the sets are all kind of...
Right, yeah. And the actual inside of the Platt house is not actually inside that house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the magic of television for you.
Yes.
So it was quite cool seeing
They
all
wouldn't
the
be able to get the
little,
boom in.
all the little details that they've got
Uh-huh.
of where the chairs are and
Right.
the picture that's on the wall of the blue door that's in the sun and the shade.
Right.
That everyone is saying Gail would definitely have taken to France with her.
Probably.
And they're right.
Yeah.
Having to recreate all those little details.
I don't know. She would have had to lug it herself.
Yeah, it was small. It's about the size of the paranoid android that's behind you.
Ah. I had to look behind me to look at it, even though I'm the one who bought it for you. Yeah. Anyway.
So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I guess. I'm not really a huge behind the scenes person.
No,
It's
not
not
am I.
it's not even a Coronation Street thing. Like, I don't care. I just give me the movie magic.
Are you a director's commentary person?
Oh, I hate director's commentary.
The only director's commentary
So
that
pretentious.
I've listened to all the way through was Edgar Wright's director's commentary on Hot Fuzz.
I feel like that would be amusing.
It was amusing and it was very informative because he points out all the nods to other things.
Right, all the Easter eggs.
And there are millions of them.
Of course there are. It's
every
Edgar Wright.
scene, every scene has one.
I feel like David Lynch director's commentary would be interesting, but he would have never done one. Because he never explained his movies. When
And
people said,
he ain't
explain
about
my
to start
movie,
now.
he says no.
So we got little hints of maybe Amy and Addie.
Hooking up again.
Can remember that stopped because Addie tried to kiss Amy and Amy wasn't ready.
Right, yes. And then
And then Amy decided that she was ready, but Addie decided that,
that
"Do
he
you know
wanted
what?
to do an unfortunate grooming storyline.
Let's just be friends with Amy." And it seems that has now kind of resurfaced again.
Yeah.
And Addie's just been the best friend that
Amy's
Amy could
ever had
have.
in her whole life.
And it'd be nice to see the two of them.
Yeah.
We've been wanting that for a while, haven't we?
Yes. But only if they get a van and a dog.
Yeah, they've got to solve
And
mysteries.
solve mysteries
They
together.
absolutely have to solve mysteries. Oh, well, not that we're in a hurry or anything, but I've got a Scotland to go to.
You do.
And that was the week that was Coronation Street.
And
Helen.
my bandage is itchy.
Well, Helen's bandage is itchy, so tell me, Helen, what was your moment of the week?
I feel like the show wants it to be the house burning down.
I felt that Monday was the weakest episode.
Yeah, I felt so too.
That despite the fact that it's essentially a whodunit, it was kind of well crafted how everyone really had the spotlight thrown on them at some point.
Yeah.
And they did a reasonable job at making us think that it really could be any one of them,
Yeah.
which means it's none of them.
None of them. Right.
But for moment of the week, I'm not sure.
Well, apart from Tim's ventriloquism, I think the moment that really kind of got to me the most, even though I hate the whole Abby hallucination thing, is when Swain bursts into the room and saves Abby from Kit and seems to recognize the fact that she's having a mental break.
Yeah, I think so too.
And the way she kind of calms down her panic attack by telling her to breathe and stuff, and just showing a really sympathetic side of Swain we rarely get to see.
A bit of compassion.
Yeah.
And it was very much what that situation
Yeah.
required.
And the fact that Kit immediately backed off, I thought was really interesting and impressive too.
He's remembering his place.
Yeah. Finally, he remembers his place.
Still a wrong one.
Yeah.
So is that what we're going with then?
Sure.
Swain talking down Abby is our...
Moment of the week.
Moment of the week.
Your boring moment of the week? Is it the amount of time that Nick took to get Toy out of that house?
Yes.
That house that was...
On fire.
Checks notes on fire at the time.
Right. Yes.
He's like, oh,
How he's
God.
got to like bend his knees
Yep.
and make sure he's got to stretch first.
Lift with the knees, Nick. Lift with the knees.
And then like picks her up like a child as opposed to like doing like a fireman's carry. So which makes her even heavier and more cumbersome.
Side steps out of the house.
Right. Make sure to kick the door shut afterwards so it can get stuck.
Nick's rescue of Toya was our...
Boring moment of the week.
You know what? You know what was another scene that I really liked this week? Is Sam and Toya in the hospital with Toya with her head bandaged, playing chess and talking about the Queen's Gambit and how long it would take for Toya to get as good as Anna Taylor-Joy
50
in...
years.
Sam's like, very point blank, 50 years.
Yeah. That's the sort of thing that you want to be doing after you've just had to have bleed in the brain, though, isn't it?
Play chess?
Play some chess.
Of course.
And nobody said at any point,
Evil dies tonight!
It would have been out of place.
that would have been funny, though. That would have been moment of the week. All right, it's time now for...
Yay!
You will know from listening
that
to us
damn
previously
dog.
that
The damn snoring dog.
the snoring dog is an alert for everyone that we're about to talk about the vote that I post on Twitter every week, asking people what their thoughts on this week's episodes were. They get the choice of yay, meh, or zzz, depending on their standpoint. And the results this week were zzz was 35.3%,
Interesting.
Meh was 48.2%.
What?
And yay, a mere 16.5%.
What?
I'm surprised by that.
I am a little surprised by that as well. And again, it kind of feels like part of that is Coronation spoiling itself and building up this whole big thing. And then it's kind of over by the end of the day on Monday. I kind of wish the fire had been Wednesday and its own episode. But then they wouldn't have had time to go through an awful lot of the whodunit bits until next week.
It's a tricky situation because they want people to tune in to watch. So they try and get people excited for what's coming up. But I think they go a little bit too far in spoiling the show for itself. Because, again, if you had no idea what was going to happen and all of a sudden they blow up number 8, you're like, holy fuck, what on
Holy
earth
shit,
did I just
what's
watch?
going on here? And also the whole questionable ways that some people get out of the house. And why did so many people go into the house? And why did some people not get out of the house? Was not done very well.
No, that was a little confusing and
Yeah.
a little rushed. And they think that a fade to white explains an awful lot of it away. We don't let the results of the poll sway
No.
our opinions, of course, Helen.
No, of
So
course not.
what is your score out of 10 this week?
You know, I'm going to give it a 6.
We gave it a 5 last week. I think I'll give it a 7. No, that's 6.5, I think.
You could just do the same score I gave it. You could say 6. It's all right.
No,
it's all right for us to have the same score.
I'm going to say 6.5. It's not a 7.
It's
And
not
it's
a
better
7.
than a 5. And I think it's better than a 6.
Not by much.
Not by much. Hence, 6.5.
Yeah.
All right.
It may not have been the stunt that we had hoped it to be,
Yeah, I really hoped for a great week this week, and it
But-
wasn't a great week.
but at least there was no floating guns.
And for that, we're always grateful.
Yes.
Let's wrap this one up then, and I can be probably editing this in an airport tomorrow morning.
Yes.
This episode was brought to you with thanks to... I hate it when people who create things talk about the editing process. I've decided.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you talk about it
And
all the damn time.
So I need to stop doing it because it annoys me when other people do
I
it.
would like you to write the steps down though, just in case anything ever happens to you and I have to do editing.
How to edit?
Yeah.
Well, you'd need to sit with me as we do it.
Right. Yeah. But I did that one time and I forgot 5 minutes afterwards. So you need to write it down as well. Because that's just the way I am.
All right.
And also, please let nothing ever happen to you.
Yeah, if something happens to me, you ain't doing this.
Right. Well, but I was thinking about that the other day. If something happens to you, how do I even get in to explain to people what happened and that there was no more show? And other things, other things beyond this. There's nothing written down of passwords and things for me to cancel things. We should really sit down and do this.
You cancel my bank account and that's everything cancelled. Anyway, this is cheery as fuck.
Yes, it is.
For someone who's about to get on 6 planes in the next 5 days.
And also get in and out of a country.
Yeah, good luck to me.
Yes.
Thank you. This episode was brought to you with thanks to our friends of the podcast, Daisy, French Helen, Pickles, DT, Wendy, Noel, Canadian Helen, Christy, Shandy, English Victoria, Aurora Yvonne, Heather Westerfield, Russell Whiting, Jackie B, Brittany Porter, Laurie Anna, Tina, Stephen, Leah, Tara J and Fiona B.
Woo!
Thank you so very much, everybody. We really appreciate it. If you've ever been a hairdresser who was also a getaway driver, write in to tell us about it. We're thetalkofthestreet@gmail.com, and we're at Corrie Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads and Blue Sky, or you can reach us the old-fashioned way, The Talk of the Street, P.O. Box 12, Eaton Rapids, Michigan 48827.
Yes.
You can shout me and Helen a coffee or become a friend of the podcast by heading to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/The Talk of the Street, or patreon.com/The Talk of the Street. Check out voggle.co.uk for links to a merch store, YouTube channel and blog. And if you're so inclined, please leave a rating and a review on the iTunes or your podcast provider of choice. And be sure to check out our pop culture sister podcast, The List of Lists.
Not this week.
Well, you can listen to back episodes. Thanks for making it to the end of another episode. And we will be back next week with more
The Talk of the Street.
The Talk of the Street.
Bye.
Cheerio.